Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Gemini Journalist. It's always an honor to have you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join me here on The Gemini Journalist as I entertain you with the chapters of my novel, The Rookie, The Royal Wedding. Now, if you are joining us for the very first time, please ensure that you hit that share button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Turn that notification bell on. You do not want to miss upcoming notifications. Make sure you hit like at the end of the video if you indeed enjoyed what you saw here. Now, if you have not received or purchased your copy of The Rookie, Helena Carson Finds True Love, or The Rookie, The Royal Wedding, please ensure that you check the links out down below. You can grab yourself a copy from Amazon. Also, I have Call It What You Will, My Rape Story. This is also a novel. This is dedicated for the young women of today's society. Now, if you are here locally in Jamaica, you know how to get at me. Just go ahead and hook me up or drop a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to reach out to you over social media so I can get you a copy of either books or authortube books. Not a problem. Reach out to me and we'll take it from there. All right, so without further delay, let's just dive right in. The Rookie, The Royal Wedding, Chapter 10, The Unexpected Shock. Helena sat in the garage with her palms pressed against the steering wheel, bracing herself to face Augustus and share her day's experience with him. She scouted out the garage before hopping out of the vehicle. Entering the house, Helena threw her keys in their usual spot on the serving counter, removed her jacket, then poured herself a glass of water. Augustus was not in the television room, so he must have been upstairs. She set her glass down, then made her way up the stairs and into the bedroom. He wasn't there either. "Honey?" she called out, but there was no response from him. She pulled her phone from its carrier on her waist and dialed his number. Ring, ring, ring. She heard his phone continuing to ring down the passage. Helena followed the sounds, which led her straight to the guest room. She slowly opened the door, not allowing it to creak, but it did. She dialed Augustus's number once more. This time, it went straight to voicemail. She tried several more times, but it kept going through to voicemail. "Honey, if you are in here, come on out. This isn't funny. I heard your phone ringing." Helena looked around the room, opening the closet doors. She checked the bathroom, but nothing. She was raging with anger. She stormed out the guest bedroom and headed for the kitchen. She picked up the receiver of their landline telephone and was about to dial Augustus's number once again when she felt someone cover her eyes, and in a distorted voice she heard the person say, "Put the phone down." She started shaking. Was this a robbery? Had something terrible happened to Augustus? Helena was frantic. She returned the receiver to its base and did as instructed. "Now I'm going to pick you up, and your eyes must remain shut or I will kill you. Understood?" She nodded her head in fear. Helena's heart raced as a stranger picked her up from the floor and took her to the television room. The room suddenly became hot. She could tell the fireplace was lit. Then she was gently placed to lay on the floor with her hands tied over her head and her eyes covered with a blindfold. "What are you doing?" "Just be quiet," the stranger responded. He had forgotten to gag her mouth. She figured this might have been a prank or someone of no experience trying to capture her as their hostage. The room was quiet. She heard no movements, only the cracking sounds of the woods as they burned. "I am going to remove your clothes and redress you in something more comfortable. Please cooperate." She lay there without responding. Helena felt the fingers of the stranger run down her thighs as he slowly undressed her. He removed everything, She could feel him dress her with lace. Now her heart started pounding even more as she tried to shake her way out of his grip. "I said keep still. You do not follow instructions well?" Tears slowly filled her eyes as she lay still, allowing him to proceed. "Now I am going to release your ties. Please do not try anything." Helena remained still with her eyes closed. "You can open your eyes now, sweetheart." The distorted voice was gone. It was Augustus's voice she heard in the room. Helena opened her eyes without hesitation and saw Augustus kneeling next to her in his birthday suit with oil all over his hard core. The room's only light source was a fireplace, and rose petals filled the room. She observed a bottle of champagne in an ice bucket on the center table, with 2 glasses propped next to it. She was dressed in a black laced thong, monokini designed lingerie with straps running midway her chest to the back and front of her pelvic region to the back. She sprung from the floor and slapped Augustus across the cheek. "Ow! What was that for?" "You find any of this funny?" "A little," he jeered. She slapped him again. "This ain't funny." "Man, I always loved your steam." She pushed him away and stormed off. Before she managed to climb the stairs, Augustus grabbed her and picked her up. With his sensual voice, he whispered in her ear as he escorted her back to the fireplace. "This isn't funny, but it's romantic. It's been a while since we had a great time, and I want you to release all that stress on me. Slap the heck out of me and make me feel your inner pain." He lay her down on the ground and kissed her forehead, her eyes, her cheeks, then planted his lips upon hers. Helena was furious and wanted to throw him off her, but she couldn't resist. She returned his kiss and squeezed his body tightly against hers. Augustus ran his fingers down her thighs as she locked them around him as he gently slipped himself between her thighs with his manhood. Helena felt his warmth thrust itself inside her. She grabbed his muscular arms as he gripped her thighs tighter. They were in the heat of the moment. Sweat flooded their faces and ran down Augustus's ripped frame. Helena could remember the first time she saw sweat run down his core, just the way it did now. She wanted more and more of him. It was like he was touching her for the very first time. Augustus flipped Helena around, grabbed her by her hair, and smacked her butt cheeks. He gently escorted his hard cock into Helena's extremely moist pussy, and as she screamed his name, he pounded continuously. "You're a naughty little girl, aren't you?" "Oh, you betcha, Daddy." Releasing his grip from her hair, Augustus held her by her waist. "That's how I like it, baby. Give it to me really good." After all that excitement, I believe we've worked up an appetite. They were both laying on the floor when he turned and kissed Helena's forehead. "I believe so too. What do you have in mind, my love?" she responded. Just then, the doorbell rang. Wow, perfect timing. I wonder who could that possibly be? She rolled her eyes and sat up. "Relax, love. I will go see." Augustus pounced off the floor and pulled on his pants. He peeped out the peephole and saw a red-headed young man appearing to be just out of high school. He was dressed in a neon green jersey top with black jeans and a neon green and black hat that said, "Hot tossed cheese-packed pizzas." Augustus opened the door and greeted the young man. "Good evening, sir. I apologize for any possible delays there might have been." "Oh, no worries, man. You're on perfect timing, believe me." Augustus handed the young man a $50 and said, "Keep the change, lad, and thanks a lot." He shut the door behind him, went to the kitchen where he grabbed 2 glasses and a bottle of wine from the wine stand. He rejoined Helena, who was lying next to the fireplace, her firm breast and delicious body revealing itself to him. He stood there capturing the moment for a few seconds before he sat beside her and handed her one of the boxes of pizza. I ordered barbecue and pepperoni. I know pepperoni's your fave, so why don't we save the best for last and give the barbecue a shot? I totally agree. She smiled at him as he set the second box down on the center table. Are you gonna have wine to go with that? She smiled again and said, You betcha. They were both enjoying their evening. Helena was overwhelmed with joy. Augustus had given her a moment she least expected, and she was indeed filled with happiness once again. Good morning, sunshine. Augustus was already up long before Helena had the chance to notice. He fixed up a tasty treat of eggs, pancakes, bacon, bagels, and some mixed fruits along with yogurt, a side dish. Ready for breakfast? She was too comfortable on the floor to even move. The rug was thick, warm, and fluffed around her naked body like a puff of clouds. Breakfast was already set out on the center table. So lucky for her, her treats had not ended. Augustus stretched out his hand to assist Helena with sitting up. Oh, yummy! This all looks so scrumptious. Thank you, my darling. Now eat up and enjoy. He left for the kitchen, took the carton of milk and orange juice from the refrigerator, grabbed the coffee, kettle, and joined Helena on the floor. The glasses and everything else they needed were already there. This is real good, love. She turned her mug upright, allowing him to pour her coffee. Let's stir things up a bit. How was your meeting back at the office yesterday with Thomas and the prick? You sure you want to get into that right now? Not really, but we need to discuss it at some point, right? She sipped her coffee with her eyes fixated on his gaze. Tell you what, let's get through breakfast peacefully, and then maybe after we can talk about yesterday's craziness. Deal. Augustus poured himself a glass of orange juice and topped up Helena's mug with more milk and coffee. After breakfast, they both cleared the table and washed up the dishes. That's when Helena broke it to him. Babe, I don't know how to tell you this, but I have been called back to work, the office. What? You aren't taking up their offer, are you? I knew this was going to turn out this way. I'm sorry, Lena, but you must understand how this is. I do, and that's why I said I knew it would turn out this way. I had to take the offer, Augustus. What? You up and quit. We got our bills. How the hell do you think all this would get paid for? We could get jobs. Stop being so naive. A new job would take some time. I'm already in a job and on a steady payroll. I won't let arrogance get the best of me. She dried her hands in the dishcloth and threw it on the counter, then walked away from him. He stood there staring through the window. He watched as the children played and all the passers-by departed on their own different directions. He fist-punched the counter and groaned in distress. Helena, he was on his way up the staircase when he glanced at the fireplace and saw her laying on her back with her eyes closed. She didn't acknowledge his call. Helena? Sweetheart? I'm sorry, he whispered, heading back down to join her. He ran his fingers through her hair and whispered, I love you, sweetheart. I am just dumb sometimes and overreact way too many times. But you know I don't mean to, right? She didn't respond. Augustus suddenly felt worried. He was now checking for a pulse to see if she was okay. He didn't get a pulse at first, but did at the second try. He started to shake her, but she did not budge. Lena, come on, quit playing games. He ran his fingers down her spine and between her thighs, but she still didn't move. He realized she was unresponsive. Augustus slapped Helena a few times trying to wake her, but that didn't work. Without hesitation, he rushed to the telephone and called emergency. He rushed to the room and grabbed pieces of clothing to dress her before they arrived. After waiting 50 minutes, Augustus didn't hear anyone or any sirens in a distance. He rushed outside, started the engine, and rushed back inside to get Helena. He gently propped back the front passenger seat and laid her backwards. He sped out the driveway. Halfway his journey to the hospital, he saw the ambulance approaching. He stepped harder on the gas pedal and sped right by them. You bloody fools. They arrived at the St. Jude's Hospital safely. Jumping out the vehicle, he quickly yelled for assistance as he carefully lifted Helena from the back seat. 2 nurses ran out with a stretcher and assisted him with getting her on. They rushed her inside while Augustus parked the car in the parking lot. When he returned, she had already been taken to her room and a nurse was waiting to escort him. He was met outside Helena's room by Dr. Denzel Azan, who introduced himself and escorted him to the lounge. Dr. Azan handed him a clipboard and explained what to do. I did not get your name. My sincere apologies. This is all chaotic. I am Augustus Royal. Well, Mr. Royal, your wife will be okay. Augustus smiled when Dr. Azan said wife. I presume she's your wife, isn't she? He smiled again before responding. She's my wife-to-be. Well, congratulations. She will be okay. Filling this form out will better assist us in knowing what's happening with the soon-to-be Mrs. Royal. Augustus smiled again and thought, Mrs. Royal, that sounds perfect. The way it rolled out of his mouth. Thanks, Doc. I'll have this to you in a few minutes. Thank you, Mr. Royal. I'll have a nurse check in with you in a few minutes. In the meantime, Mrs. Royal is undergoing intravenous therapy. This aids in the transportation of fluids to Mrs. Royal's vein, and then after you've completed the form, we'll take things from there. Thanks again, Doc. Augustus watched as Dr. Azan disappeared down the hall and exited through a door on the left. Augustus proceeded with completing the registration forms and questionnaire attached to it. The forms consisted of medical history such as past illnesses, if any, and family illnesses, which may be helpful in finding out what might be the cause of Helena's sudden situation. Augustus froze for a moment. I've never met her family. In fact, she's never really spoken much about them. Augustus didn't know much about Helena's family. They've been together for a while, and it's over a bunch of medical forms that he's actually realizing this. What a jerk. How could I be so selfish? She always heard me go on and on about my folks, and I never stopped to hear about hers. He placed the clipboard on the table and walked over to peep in on her. She seemed so peaceful. Staring up the hallway, there was no doctor or nurse in sight. In fact, there was no one on the floor. Augustus pulled the door and snuck in. He stood next to Helena's bed, glaring down at her. He reached out and took her left hand in his, kissing her gently on the back of her hand. I'm sorry, Lena. I never meant to be such a jerk. I know this is all my fault. He released her hand and walked out the door. He bumped right into Dr. Azan as he exited. Sarcastically, he greeted Doc. Dr. Azan, hey! Mr. Royal, I presume you've completed the forms I've asked you to complete? Well, I've filled her personal data, but the medical history of her family, I truly don't know what to place on the form. Looking at him strangely, Dr. Azan asked, You know absolutely nothing of her past? No, Doc. How long have you two been dating, if you don't mind me asking? Doc, what does this have to do with anything? Mr. Royal, it has a whole lot to deal with it. If you can't be of any assistance, that means we can't share much with you and will have to communicate with an immediate family member or someone close enough that can help us. 2 years. Helena and I have been in a relationship for 2 years. I've never met her folks, and she was never open to sharing her story. She only spoke of her childhood and school days with her best friends, pets, and so on. But she always strayed from the topic of her folks. I only know she is an only child. What profession does Miss Carson hold? She's a detective, Doc. Do you know if she had any extra tasks to complete in limited time or anything that could add extra pressure on her? She was on a period of suspension and was called back to work the next day I walked off the job. Augustus rolled his eyes and looked away. Is there something you want to say? Me? Not at all, Doc. Lena was fit as a fiddle and quite okay until now. What was she doing the moment this transpired? Well, we were home having breakfast. She had the norm: eggs, coffee, bagels, ham, nothing new. Does she have any sorts of illnesses? Not that I am aware of. Well, Mr. Royal, Miss Carson either has an allergic reaction to something she ate or is under extreme pressure at work. This sudden reaction would have had to be triggered by shock, strain, or stress. My take. Dr. Azan placed his hands in his coat. It seems as if you know something but refuse to share. Whatever it is, I can only do my part based on the knowledge I have. The previous evening's role play between Augustus and Helena flashed into Augustus's head. I can't tell Doc this. This is our bedroom business right there. Augustus reached out and shook Dr. Azan's hand and thanked him. Dr. Azan excused himself, went in to check on Helena, then returned to invite Augustus in. She's up. Oh, good. Dr. Azan gave them their space. How are you, sweetheart? He leaned over gently and kissed her forehead. Not too bad, just surprised that the man that's about to marry me, whatever that is, she rolled her eyes and continued, doesn't know my family history. Lena, you never shared it. You weren't interested. You went on and on about your folks, but little did you ask about mine. I met yours, and you never asked about meeting mine. How would you marry me if you don't know anything about my family, let alone I'm in the hospital, was passed out, and you didn't even have a clue what to say to the doctor? Shame on you, Augustus. And newsflash, this is all your fault. You sent me through all this shock. You traumatized me the previous night. Then, after breakfast, you kept going on and on about me accepting the offer to return to work. Oh, so this is on me. It sure is, Mr. Royal. Dr. Azan walked in to hear the last of their conversation. I asked you if there was anything you believe that would possibly aid in finding out what could have caused the whole situation, and you refrained from sharing such. You obviously don't care about this woman and her well-being. You aren't worthy of her hand in marriage. Oh yeah? Well, who the hell are you to say? He's my dad. The room went silent. Augustus was in shock. Psh, please. Augustus rolled his eyes. Augustus, he is my dad. Will someone explain what's going on here? Your name is Carson and his is Azan. My mother was pregnant and did not tell my father. She ran off before she started to show. She met a wealthy man somewhere down the line and he took us both in. He knew my mother was pregnant. She was even months along when they met. He was willing to raise me as his own, so I received his last name. Cutting in, Dr. Azan added, her mother had moved far out of state, and when she returned on business one day, that was when I ran into her and my little angel. She looked just like her mother, with my eyes, slight facial features. When she told me she was married and the difference between the period she left, I surmised at Helena's age there was no possible way she could be anyone else's but mine. Of course, she didn't reveal it immediately, but we met over breakfast and some coffee one day when Lena was in school. It was then her mother revealed that Lena was my daughter. According to her, she was afraid of whatever. So how is it you're so close but yet so far away? I have never heard Lena speak of you. I have, but you were too caught up with the royal family. I was not. You were too. In fact, Dad has moved back and forth too many times to keep track of him with my busy schedule. After several long-distance contracts, I've only returned a few months back. She was totally unaware till she woke and saw me at her bedside. So why did you waste your time asking me all those questions? As her spouse, Lena never made much mention. Guess her life really is busy. He looked over at Helena before continuing. Anyway, I did not waste my time. I actually wanted to know what was happening, because the Helena I know was never a sickly little duckling. Augustus was lost for words. I really do not know what to say. Pleased to finally meet you, Augustus. I am not going back on my word though. Reconsider that proposal. Dr. Azan left the room, and there was silence between Helena and Augustus for a few minutes. Helena closed her eyes and remained silent. Augustus didn't know what to say. He wanted to leave. He wanted to stay. His head was all over the place. I'm sorry, Lena, he whispered. You can close the door behind you, she coldly responded. I'm a bit exhausted. Have you eaten? You've been out for a while. What's it to you? Lena, I was just trying something new. Give me a break now. I said I was sorry. That's all you always are, sorry. Just leave and close the door behind you. Augustus did as she wished. He walked right out the door and never looked back. He hasn't checked in yet. Has he called you? Dr. Azan was changing Helena's IV and removing her waist bag. No, he hasn't. It's not like him, but at this point I really can't handle any more problems. I've had way too many already. Have you phoned in office for me? I did, but the guy says you had to call him yourself. I explained your situation, that you were unresponsive for a few hours and that you are slowly recovering. The guy still stuck to his statement. I don't see why you give these bastards all your time. It was all good at first, but I guess with Augustus gone, it's also dull and gloomy. He pulled the chair from the corner of the room and sat next to her bed. Sometimes you've just got to do what you've got to do, Lena. If you're not happy, why force yourself to be in a place where you don't belong? I need the money, Dad. We need the money. He up and quit. It's not like there is much of a choice. Have you spoken to your mother recently? No. What's up? Nothing's up, but a getaway to her place might work for you. Phone her up and see how she's doing. Dad, I got work. Lena, you're serving the country like me. You aren't well and you are entitled to your time away. I will submit a doctor's certificate for you. If they try anything, you have our family lawyer. Do not hesitate to call upon him. In fact, I'll give him a call if these people try messing with your job. Thanks, Dad, but I think I've got this. Dr. Azan rose from the chair, kissed Helena on the cheek, and left the room. Turning back before the door shut, he added, Oh, you get out tomorrow. Make that call. Helena smiled as he exited the room. She let out a loud sigh while looking at her phone. Why do I gotta be the one to call? She must have heard I was in here. She looked up at the ceiling, then closed her eyes. Within a few minutes, she was out. Yes, indeed. So there you have it. Chapter 10 of The Rookie, The Royal Wedding. It's a little bit longer than we normally would have had this week, but it was indeed an honor once again to have you taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to join me here on The Gemini Journalist as I share the magical wonders of what I have included in my novels. Alright, so once again, down below in the description there are the links to my novels. If you have not yet purchased your copy, please ensure that you get yourself a copy today. I have the book 1, The Rookie, Helena Carson Finds True Love, the book 2, The Royal Wedding, and of course I have that teenage book that builds emotions and brings you, just basically encourages teen girls that there is always a brighter tomorrow. I have Call It What You Will, My Rape Story. For the kids who are learning how to count, we also have that counter book from 1 to 10 that is an ebook only. Alright, so check it all out. They're all on Amazon. Hook me up on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. All my social media sites will be listed down below. Reach out to me if you're here locally in Jamaica. Remember, you can get yourself a copy. The book 1, The Rookie, Helena Carson Finds True Love, is 1,500 Jamaican dollars. If you have not yet purchased book 2 is only $2,200. And Call It What You Will, My Rape Story, is $1,500. The 1 to 3, the counting 1 to 10, is actually located again only on the website as an e-reader. So that one you can only get there for 99 cents. Alright, so once again, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join me here this Friday morning as I share the chapter of my novel, The Rookie, The Royal Wedding. Now, you guys have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Please stay safe, wear your mask, have a fabulous weekend. Thank you again for joining me here on The Gemini Journalist. Your girl Ash signing out, saying peace out. See you next week. Stay safe.